Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Deconstructing the Narrative. I am your host, and I'm also a content creator with Sada Collective. My name is Erica Seha, and today I'm here with Nicola. How are you, Nicola?
Hey, Erica. Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks.
Thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate you being here.
And I appreciate it too.
So just to get started, can you kind of just give us a background on what you do and what your role in the creative industry is right now?
So I am founder and creative director of my brand, SHAGBAGG. I have been manufacturing here in Los Angeles for about 6 years, and I design, oversee production, market it, and basically do everything, surrounding the brand.
Awesome. And can you go a little bit deeper into what SHAGBAGG is and kind of like the brand story behind SHAGBAGG?
Definitely. So SHAGBAGG was founded out of a literal like subconscious vision or dream that I had when I was still in design school in Miami. And just kind of like during finals week, I was really spread thin and not getting a lot of sleep. And then it's kind of in those moments when you allow your brain to shut off and you let the subconscious come in that you'll get an idea. If you're a writer, you'll get up in the middle of the night and write something, or, in this case for me, it was just seeing a vision of a shaggy bag. And after I'd been drawing and sketching and just kind of exhausted, but, I got up and I drew it. I designed the logo that day. And then it was a journey from moving from Miami to Los Angeles, but I ended up shadowing and interning with the right people and learning my way around the fashion district in LA. And it's basically grown from there. But SHAGBAGG in and of itself is a retro inspired design of bags and apparel using texturally fun and friendly fabric of shag, like you would have seen in the 1960s.
Cool.
But yeah, so, and then, it's really engineered to kind of interact with others, or, anytime you're wearing it, or people always be like, oh my God, what, can I touch that? Or what is that? And so it's just, I found that it's a really fun way to get people to strike up a conversation or to express, your authentic style.
So cool. Awesome. And I guess kind of going deeper, I really like how this all kind of started when you were kind of, working on school and stuff. So I kind of want to go a little bit deeper into that story and just kind of talk about what ideas, I guess, throughout school or your time in school kind of led to you wanting to pursue this as your creative path. What sparked the interest for the Shaggy Bag?
So I had already gone to undergrad and with the intention of going to law school. So for many, many years, I had shut off that the creativity that was inside me. And so when I decided to go to design school and kind of hang that left turn, I had an intention. I was there to make something happen. And I wanted just to design and create something that was going to be completely different than what I had seen on the market. And so from having that willpower and, it's just all kind of an encompassing concept, I guess, that because I always loved the 1960s era music, the empowerment that I brought to our country, what it stood for. And then on top of, wanting to set out to create something different, I just think that that all kind of, I drew from that. And that's where it kind of was born.
So cool. And I guess going a little deeper than just the company, what is your creative background prior to this all coming to life? I know you kind of just mentioned that you kind of suppressed your creative, situation for a bit, but prior to that suppression going on, what kind of work were you doing? What was your primary area, and what kind of sparked your interest in the creative industry?
So after I had switched gears to go into design school, as I said, I had already gone to undergrad. So I completed my first year in design school. And by that point, other parts of my life were in motion. My sister had recently moved out here to LA. It was just always, I knew that I would end up here at some point, but after finishing that first year, And going into summer, I was out here visiting my sister, and she introduced me to friends who are launching a brand. And the founder of that brand had successfully launched and created Von Dutch hats. And so, with that background of knowledge and how to create a successful brand and sourcing and all of that, I ended up shadowing and interning with the brand manager and just seeing firsthand of what had all gone into launching a brand. And so that concept was a onesie line. So it was literally adult onesies with like long sleeves and pants, and then a hood that zips up. But I mean, they had the connections to get it on Britney Spears or get it to Rihanna or Katy Perry back then. So this was like 10 years ago, but and what a window front display should look like in Kitson. So it was like all of these things, and visiting the manufacturer is what I basically got to see in a very condensed amount of time.
So cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
yeah.
awesome. So cool. Kind of to hear the way everything just kind of fell together and stuff, especially since your head for a bit wasn't really into it. It just seems like it fell into your lap, which is really cool to hear. That's so awesome. And I guess getting a little bit deeper into like your narrative, what would you say your narrative is? It doesn't necessarily have to be with the company, but maybe just you as an artist. Like, what is the story that you feel like you're trying to tell through your art or through your creative path?
I think that it encompasses staying true to your authentic self, being confident in expressing that authenticity, and following your dreams.
Sweet. Yeah, I think those are all really important things, and especially like I think the best part about this is here is how you had a really big passion for this time and era, and you kind of brought it to life in modern day. And I think taking the things that you're really passionate about, whether that be an era or that be an artist or that be anything, you know what I mean, and kind of putting that into your own craft, I think that really shines through. So I think your work probably really pops because of that, because you kind of had this previous knowledge and passion for this time, and to kind of bring that into to this modern era and kind of put your own twist on it, but still kind of staying true to what was going on back then. I think that's really cool. And I think that really goes with what you just said, this authenticity, just this passion that lies within you, and that comes out authentically through your work. So it's definitely very important, and definitely really big for younger creatives to definitely listen to when it comes to pursuing a creative path.
100%.
Yeah. And what is like a real life occurrence, like other than like obviously like your inspiration from like the 60s and stuff, something that happened to you throughout maybe school or before that even, that inspired you and the creation of SHAGBAGG?
I mean, honestly, growing up as a kid, I mean, it's funny because I did all the things as a kid that I kind of have to do now, whether it was I'm going to design a line and like draw and like try to sew or do fun, or like I'm going to create or I'm going to direct my own film and my cousins are going to be in it, and like being 12. And it's like, now you have to create brand videos and content that are going to keep people inspired. But I think that I always was just, aside from it being the 1960s, I think just the music and the colors always spoke to me as a child, and even through before I wanted to technically get into fashion. I think that those colors and that music and how everyone was kind of rebelling, and it just, as they say, like history comes back or trends come back, but I just think it's such like a crucial part of our history that's now kind of being reflected in today's time. So yeah.
Awesome. And I want to kind of talk to you, I guess, just as a creative in this industry. What are some like gaps, I guess, that you've noticed? This is something I'm going to kind of start incorporating into all these interviews. And I haven't really asked this yet, but I think it's really important because, Sada's really moving in the way of like, creating this community of creatives, helping creatives, and trying to really get rid of this narrative of this like starving artist. This when you enter the creative industry and you choose a creative path, will tell you like you're not gonna be able to find a job or you're not gonna be successful. There's this narrative that really surrounds the creatives in this industry, which we're really trying to knock that over, because like obviously like creativity and creatives really just rule everything that we do. Like you wouldn't be able to do like 99.9% of the things that you do every single day without like a creative, you know, mind behind whatever it is that thing is. So what are some gaps that you've noticed in the creative industry as a creative that you wish kind of like you either had access to back when you started SHAGBAGG, or even that you wish you had access to now, something that you really just kind of noticed that should be resolved within the creative, you know, community?
I think that I mean, even now, and maybe it's because I haven't really like dug deep enough on the internet for like Facebook groups or whatever communities, but I think it really is a lack in community. Because I mean, and that's why you guys are great. I saw you're doing a Zoom meeting on Wednesdays where people can kind of speak up and collab. And I think, yeah, it's basically a lack in community. I have felt, and I did feel when I was launching SHAGBAGG, and after I had left the other company, I was waiting tables, and I did that for 4 years. And afterwards, or before, whatever the time was, I would go downtown and source or drop fabric off at the dye house or do whatever I needed to do. But I still felt very isolated and alone at times. And I think that the creative community is one thing. I've met other beautiful, friendly, welcoming creatives, but I think that even now what is being examined is the fashion community in general is kind of taking, you know, it already has been taking a step back, but it has been, you know, it's really needs to keep examining the way that the industry is carried out, because I think that it can be intimidating. It can be isolating, as I said. And, you know, I just wish that there was more of an open discussion, more, you know, just willingness and welcoming for, you know, to give people a leg up, or just be like, you know, willing to extend the help or give that contact out. If you're not competing, then I don't understand. If you have non-competing items or products or brands, like I don't understand why, you know? So, I mean, I just try to enact that, especially if, you know, and if I talk to anybody else who's trying to get involved, I'm more than happy to be open with my resources.
Yeah, I think this collaboration aspect is really what we're missing out on as well. I think, you know, over time, like the industry just kind of became this like place where everybody was just kind of like, you know, not hogging, but like, you know, really gatekeeping. That's what I was looking for.
Big time.
Like resources and, you know,
contact, hierarchy,
and everything, you know. And it's like, I think people feel like, you know, if you're larger and you have a larger following, I think with social media especially, you know, you kind of feel like you have that like leg up, which like I feel like that should be like kind of as a hand to like younger creatives who are coming up, because like you know, I think we have to realize like we all started somewhere, and we all started as like a young creative with like an idea, you know what I mean? And like it's really hard, especially in somewhere like LA, to kind of get in there when there's so many people who are already established, especially in LA, and especially in like somewhere like New York, you know, which are the two biggest art communities like in the US. I think it's just like really important that, like you said, you know, this collaboration aspect kind of comes back. So yeah, I definitely think that's a really important thing. And, you know, I think that it's all just about like lending, like you said, resources to people who, if they're not in competition with you, just kind of lending that hand, you know what I mean? And just remembering where you started, I think at the end of the day is like the really, really big thing to do. Yeah, definitely. And kind of going off of that, what is something that I guess you've learned from the creative industry that you would lend as advice to your younger self, to yourself as a young creative, something that you like know now that you wish you knew back when you were first starting?
Stay better organized, keep a list going of, you know, keep a list of your resources, keep that organized. You know, if you found, and that can range from your contacts to sourcing to zippers, whatever it may be. I mean, because now I know all these things off the top of my head, but, you know, 5 years ago, I'd be like, where was it? You know, so staying organized, keeping a list is definitely great. I think that giving yourself time and being gentle with yourself is also something that I wish that I mean, and I'm still learning that, but you know, it is they call it a creative process for a reason. So, you know, be gentle with yourself and allow the creative process to take its lead, because that's really where you're going to find the magic happens.
Definitely. Yeah, I completely
Yeah.
agree with that.
I mean, I can go on and on, but yeah, I think those are two important ones.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's cool that you mentioned, you know, this creative process. It's called a creative process for a reason. And I think we should really embrace, you know, the time that goes into, like, you know, all of the parts of things coming to life, you know, like whether they be good or bad. Cause like, I don't know, when you said that, all I can think of like is me in like art school and like doing a project where I didn't know what I was like doing, you know what I mean, the entire time, and like all those frustrations and little things you have to tackle like to get to the end goal. Like when you're done, it's just like, yeah, like I needed to like figure everything out to get to this end goal, you know what I mean? And I think, you know, kind of embracing that instead of like knocking yourself down because it wasn't like so easy, you know.
Yeah. Or it wasn't perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. The perfect thing is a big thing too, because like me personally, I'm a huge like OCD freak, like literally with everything. And I've kind of had to learn with my, at least my creativity, to kind of let go of it. You know what I mean? Because, you know, everything can't be perfect. And I think that, you know, embracing that it's not perfect is kind of what makes it you and unique, you know? So it's definitely very important. Cool. And have you had any really cool experiences or pivotal responses or anything that have pertained to like SHAGBAGG, like anything that like has happened that's been really excited for the company in general, or just anyone who's come up to you and given you like some really great feedback or comments on SHAGBAGG?
Well, I mean, to start, this was when I maybe had like 4 or 5 sample bags made, because I started with bags. That's why it's SHAGBAGG. But was when we had dropped a bag off at Snoop Dogg's compound for his intention for his wife. And then the next thing we know, we see him posting it on his Instagram. And I mean, this was all still even... Yeah, and it was new when Instagram was, I mean, this was 5 or 6 years ago, or 5 years ago. But yeah, so I mean, that was really cool. And then my sister ended up, she was interning. So that's how we knew to like, we're like, oh, why don't we just like leave something for his wife? And so she ended up seeing him in the office with the bag and going into a meeting with it. And when he came out, she said to him, she was like, and my sister's just very outspoken. She ended up working her way up to being a producer for his online series. But she said to him, like, what do you like the present I gave you? And he was like, oh, this is you. And she was like, no, yeah, it's my sister's line. And he's like, you tell your sister this is the shit, and like held it up and
Awesome.
and like handed a phone to one of his producers and was like, take a picture of this. And so there's a picture of like my sister and him on the website. I mean, and then just other celebrity reactions. You'll just, being random places or being in the right place at the right time, I guess is, but yeah, hearing those reactions from somebody who you don't even think they would have normally, you know, personally said anything to you had not had the product on, it is a cool response. So just working on making more connections and relationships like that, where it is going back to authenticity and authentic, where, you know, they genuinely appreciate it is I think so important in terms of PR. So
definitely. And kind of going off of this whole collaboration and like making contacts, you know, situation, what are some tips you would have for a creative who's, let's say, you know, a little bit more like shy when it comes to like talking with people or kind of putting themselves out there? Because I feel like, you know, that obviously is a very important aspect to kind of growing your name and your business and everything behind you. So what would you recommend for someone who isn't necessarily the best at like communicating in that way, and how should they approach situations to still come out and have contacts and resources available?
I mean, so I definitely feel that. I feel that shyness. I've been there where I'm with friends and people like go and talk to them or give them your card or whatever. And I'm like, I hate to bother people. I hate to, you know? And so that's why I really prefer for it to be organic, or someone to just make the first move. That's just generally me as a person, which I have had to get over as well. And still am not even completely over at all. But I would say, and I know this is really hard because, and I'm still learning this as well, but it's maybe finding that yin to your yang in terms of, you know, somebody who does have that strong suit. I mean, for me, it was my sister, where she doesn't have a problem talking to PR or celebrity contacts. It's nothing to her. But for me, and maybe it's because it's my own art, and I think that you can probably agree on this. Women are so much better being each other's cheerleaders than we are tooting our own horn.
Yeah, you're saying this, and I'm like thinking of who I would have do it for me.
And I mean, you could even, kind of like, if you have the willpower to do it, split your brain and be like, you know what, today I am the PR contact and I am going to be that personal reach out person. Mm-hmm. If you have that mental strength, and if you're kind of like don't know who that person may be yet. Mm-hmm. But I think that knowing your strengths and weaknesses is key. Mm-hmm. And this is just even advice for myself still, because I'm telling you, I haven't fully mastered it, but knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and then streamlining that and finding that maybe other person who could be the key to mm-hmm. those things that are your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that all leads back to collaboration too. Like, I think one of the previous guests kind of mentioned something about, finding someone to kind of help you out, like in the areas, kind of like you said, like, that you're kind of weaker in. And I think that's really important, especially if you have creatives around you who also kind of understand, you guys kind of can do like a swap, like I'll do this for you, you do this for me, you know what I mean? And I think that kind of is the way to kind of utilize your peers and kind of help each other out. Because there's definitely I'm definitely pretty shy when it comes to like those kinds of interactions as well. It's really hard to kind of put yourself out there and be like, hey, this is what I do and here's all my work, and you know what I mean? You don't want to bother people. I feel the exact same way, and it's taking me a bit to get over it. I'm still not 100% there, and now that you just mentioned that, I am thinking of like people or creatives in my life who I could kind of utilize to kind of help me in those moments, because I think it's really important. I think it's really important to also talk about that, because I think a lot of the reason a lot of creatives feel stuck and like they're struggling is because they're unable to get those contacts or those resources, because they're afraid to put themselves out there, which is totally understandable. And I think, we should be able to cater to all kinds of personalities and all kinds of people who are and what they're comfortable with. So kind of, you're learning how to utilize your peers. I think is definitely a really great way to get around that. So that's really great advice. And do you have like a story of like doubt or like a moment that you can really remember where something just like did not go like right, and that you feel like really helped you like now, and how did you overcome that situation?
Ooh, so a great lesson. Okay. I think that a lot of some of these stories, I'm going to try to pick which one while I talk myself through this. I think that patience is what some parts where I, had issues going on or was kept on hitting a wall or finding obstacles. I think that patience and staying calm and keeping the faith in what you're doing is what I really learned from some of the obstacles that I face every week. One, for example, was I felt very adamantly about getting my trademarking SHAGBAGG. Mm-hmm. And I looked into it, paid for an attorney, mm-hmm. and they said, Franklin Sports, which is a pretty big corporation of sportswear, owns SHAGBAGG, the name, because it's a different item that you use to pick up golf balls on the course. I didn't know. Mm-hmm. But anyway, basically the attorney said to me you have zero chance of getting this. Mm-hmm. And with my former background of wanting to attend law school and everything, it just having those papers and having the right documentation in place so I could make sure nobody could come in and swoop it from me. Mm-hmm. The idea or concept or anything, especially the name, was so important. And so he gave me, the attorney listed off the options and was like, you don't really have any chance of doing this. But I ended up going for it, and I wrote the CEO of Franklin Sports. Didn't hear back. This is another place where my sister comes in as that person who I really needed, and reached after, maybe it had been 2 months. I didn't hear anything. Reached out, somehow got the contact number for his office, and the secretary came back and said to her, he says, good luck to your sister and that she can have it, because they were coming up on the 10-year end of their trademark. Uh-huh. And at that point they can give it to somebody else or renew it. And he ended up issuing it to me. And even though completely different spelling, but staying patient and continuing on. I didn't let that be a roadblock for me when I was still creating. And just moving forward with keeping my intuition and all of those things that we talked about earlier at the forefront is what that taught me, to just keep moving. And hopefully you'll get the results that you need or want.
Yeah, sorry. And I was gonna say, not really like listen to anyone who's kind of putting doubt in your mind, because it seems like, you went and they told you like this isn't gonna happen, it's not happening, it's happening. So like the fact that you were able to kind of stay strong and like be like, you know what, like it's worth the shot. You know what I mean? Clearly, like the worst they could have said is no, and they didn't. So I feel like, that alone says something. And I think it's really important that, we as creatives kind of just go for it. And like, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but at least you tried, you know what I mean? And like the worst they could say is no. And the best
try every avenue. So that's just like, I think has become a strong point for me when people tell me no, but they'll give me options or something. Just try every single one. And yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And you'll eventually get there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Definitely really awesome. And then kind of, moving along, but what would you say is like the main message that you hope people take from SHAGBAGG, or even just from you as a creative in general? Let's say when you're gone and your work is still kind of existing in like the world, what do you hope that people pull from it? What message do you hope that it leaves?
And this was a really, this is a great question. And this definitely made me think, because, and then any marketing expert or person is going to tell you, well, let's pretend like you were to unfortunately pass away tomorrow. What kind of, how would we know how to run the company without you? And so that gets you thinking. And then, but thinking more along the lines of the legacy is going back to being able to express your authentic self, not being afraid to use different mediums that people may see, the one thing for, because there's always a way to, like, I guess basically what I'm saying is that, people see shag and you'll get different reactions. You're like, oh, like a rug, or, oh, like a mop, or whatever. And it's like, yeah, like it has been used, but this is like, this is just something that once you're wearing it and you see it in action, like it draws people in and it connects people and it's fun, and makes people more, I've had a client tell me this is a confidence booster for me, because when I'm normally wearing, my whatever, and people will come up to me and be like, where did you get that bag? And I just want to, keep doing what you're. So anyway, I think it's just staying true to that authentic self and keep continuing on, and don't be afraid to express yourself. And yeah, I just feel like the majority of the audience, or my customers are people who were looking for different ways than what fast fashion has maybe been giving them in order to help express their authentic style. And yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
yeah, I think definitely, yeah, that's a great message. And I think, just kind of this authenticity, I really like that word. And I really like that, you're kind of embracing that, and just kind of, that's so cool that people are finding that they're going out with, it's just it's a fashion piece. And when you go out and people are like, oh my God, that's so cool, I want to touch it, I want this, I want that, you know what I mean? And that aspect too, I think makes it really fun. It's so much more than just like a cold bag that you would wear out that nobody like really gives a second look to. It's different, you know what I mean? And it's authentic, it's you. Thanks. So I really appreciate that. I think that's really cool. Awesome. Thanks. Lastly, like, what is some advice you would give, I guess just more broad in general as a creative, to a younger creative who is just entering this community at the point that it's at right now? What is some advice you would give to that younger creative to kind of navigate throughout, their first couple years as a creative in this industry right
now? And I know that these all sound kind of, normal, but it's like, don't give up. Don't let other people or comments get you down. Literally take it with a grain of salt and have it go right over your head. Somebody tells you that it's 5:15 and they close at 5, come back when you can, whether it's 2 weeks from then or whatever, because that genuinely had helped me in the past, and meet a great contact. from just doing that. And then just, you know, listen as closely as you can to your intuition and stay on track with that and stay strong and just don't give up.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's so corny, but it's really, yeah, the determination has led me in some cool ways that, yeah.
Yeah. Like even just your story with like the name.
I'm happy that yeah, like I'm happier that I did, you know, at one point, like it did take me 2 weeks to come back to some place as opposed to not going back at all, or just being like, you know what, this is just a little bit too difficult or complicated. And the weighing out the feelings of that compared to the positive one is just, you'll never, you'll continuously thank yourself. So
definitely. Yeah. I think that's really great. And I think, yeah, just, you know, keeping on track and making sure that you're, you know, just keep going. You know what I mean? I think that's a really important thing that you said. It gets really hard sometimes, especially with everything, like I said, with the way that things are kind of running in the social industry right now. And obviously, you know, like places like us, like Sada Collective, are really trying to make this a different place for creatives. But for the time being, yeah, just, you know, continuing to go and not listening to like all the noise, I think is really important. Because there's a lot of it. You know, you put yourself out there on socials and like you don't know the response you're gonna get, but at the same time you can't control that, and just keeping true to that authenticity and that authentic reason as to why you started your craft. I think that should, you know, be enough to just lead you along the way until things kind of look up. So totally. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And lastly, just for fun, we've been asking everybody what's your favorite song right
now? So my favorite song, okay, well, I kind of got a new one because I had answered the questions last week, and then so maybe last week or the week before it was POV by Wiz Khalifa. I'm so happy to hear him back with like a new like banger, because when I moved to LA 10 years ago, like listening to, I think it was Rolling Papers was like our like coming to LA like album anthem. And then he just kind of not fell off, but you know, like didn't just put out the same feelings that I felt then. And so hearing that song really was like, yeah, like Wiz is getting back in the game. Like this makes me feel excited and motivated like I did from that other album. But I think that the new flavor of the week is, I think it's, Big Booty by Megan Thee Stallion. And oh my God, I don't know, but it's so good. And one of the lines Megan says, I never met another woman basically that I felt like I had to compete with. And seeing how she has just like risen up and you would think that Cardi B would be her competitor, but seeing them two come together and collaborate, like that is definitely, you can tell that she has never felt like she met another woman like she had to compete with. And I think that that's even a great message for other women who, you know, who we feel like we have to compete with, and, you know, just, yeah. So anyway, those are my two picks.
That's good. Those are good ones. Yeah. Love that. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. It's been so much fun talking to you. And I think, you know, I really love your story, and I really love this authenticity. I definitely want to put that in your title, that word, because I think it's so important within this industry right now, you know, just staying authentic to yourself and your craft, and the reason why you started. And I think the fact that, you know, you're sitting here and saying that's what you did, and look at where you are now, you know, and all the things that you've accomplished so far. I think that really shows a lot. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you guys. You really made me think and dig deeper, so I appreciate it.
And I'm so glad. Awesome. That's the point. And I'm really glad and excited to share this story with others as well, and kind of get this out there, because I think it's really important to kind of, you know, give creatives that platform to kind of tell their story, because a lot of the times, you know, again, going back to social media, with social media, we kind of lose that ability to kind of understand the story behind an artist and their work. We see photos and we see, this is the pretty beautiful thing that I made, you know what I mean? But it's like, okay, what was the story behind that? How did this happen? You know what I mean? I think, you know, kind of nailing going in on that is really important. So I really appreciate you joining us for this. And like you mentioned earlier, we do have a new series going up right now. So to anybody watching, it is called Conversation Pit. I'm so excited about it. It's my baby. We're starting that tomorrow. So it's tomorrow for our first session. It's at 5 p.m. And yeah, basically we're just going to be all chatting. It's going to be less of me talking and me kind of letting everybody else do the talking and kind of sharing resources and their work and tips and everything. And I'm just really excited to kind of have something where we can kind of give you guys an opportunity to kind of chat with each other. And, this is what we want to do. We want to connect you guys with each other, and we want to connect you guys with, the correct resources. We want to make sure we're putting out things that are helping you guys. So that's kind of what this, series is for. So if you're watching and that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please go ahead and register to attend. I'm going to put the link in the bio down below, so you can go ahead and do that. And if you can't make it this weekend, it's totally fine. We're going to be doing it every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please go ahead and join for that. And also, if you're a creative or if you have any creative friends who would like to be interviewed for this series, Deconstructing the Narrative, I will also put the link down below for the type form where you can apply. So go ahead and do that. Within the past couple of days, I've been kind of in the process of choosing new people for our next round. So definitely keep on that, because I have been really proactive on checking the type form applications and things like that. So other than that, if you have any questions or if you want to kind of chat with me, you can email me directly at erica@sadacollective.com. And Nicola, also, do you have any contact information where anybody watching can reach you if they have any questions or just want to chat?
Definitely. Yeah, you can check us out on our Instagram. Feel free to send me a DM. I manage the account. It's at Get Shagged on Instagram, or you can always drop me an email at hello@shagbag.com.
Awesome. Sure. So make sure everybody to go chat with Nicola and kind of check out her stuff. It sounds like it's really cool. So I'm really excited about it. So definitely sending everybody your way. And otherwise, I hope to see you guys all tomorrow. And thank you so much for watching. And I really look forward to the next episode. I'll see you all later.